I was actually in Israel for October 7, 2023. I said to my wife, I need to be in Israel for Sukkot this year. She was like, why? We always stay at home, you know? I said, I feel something's going to happen and I need to be there.
Rabbi Lawrence Hajioff is one of the world's most knowledgeable rabbis on the coming of Moshiach, end of days, and the resurrection of the dead. He shared fascinating teachings on the role of money after the Messiah's arrival, Bitcoin, the final world war, and the mysteries of eternal life. What happens to our daily lives after Moshiach comes?
Once Moshiach comes, I don't think there's going to be physical currency. We're going to see this digital currency. AI is going to come and help us to fulfill our mission on a much higher level.
One of the biblical commandments is to build the Holy Temple. Why can't you and I, after this episode, head to Jerusalem and start building?
My dear friend, if we went to Jerusalem right now and tried to build the third and final temple, we would start World War III, 4, and 5.
What happens when you die?
So when a person dies, they die, and before they're buried...
And we all live forever?
Good question. Matter of dispute. The Rambam says...
Being a Jew? Awesome. Managing personal finances? Not so awesome. Welcome to Kosher Money. Welcome to an amazing episode of Kosher Money. I'm thrilled to do this. This is not about investing. This is not about your 401k. It's not about your IRA, but it kind of is. And you'll figure out why. We're here with the one, the only. I'll let him introduce himself and we'll get right into it.
Great. Hi, Eli. Thank you so much for having me on Kosher Money. It's a big honor and a pleasure. My name is Rabbi Lawrence Hajioff. We met actually just over a year ago, pre-October 7th, 2023. And a lot of what we spoke about came to fruition. We spoke about war and challenges and difficulties. I was actually in Israel for October 7th, 2023. It was the first time I'd been in Israel for Sukkot in 30 years. I said to my wife, I need to be in Israel for Sukkot this year. She was like, why? We always stay at home, you know? I said, I feel something's going to happen and I need to be there. I had a daughter there, actually, so that was also a big influence. And that definitely impacted me. And the messages I got from, you know, previous conversations we've had and what's happening this year, there's a lot to say on this episode.
So this is a money-focused podcast. Last time we spoke about it from Moshiach and the end of times from more of a spiritual standpoint. And we are going to be talking about spirituality and different things, but I do want to start with the money side of things, right?
Sure.
People listening to this, it's 8:15 in the morning. They just dropped the kids off at school. They're heading to work. It's a grind. You know, when I was growing up, people would say to me, you don't know how lucky you are to be in yeshiva. And I looked at them, I said, I wish I can go to work. I wish I didn't have to be in school. And now I'm in work and it never stops. The grind continues. Not everybody is Elon Musk or Warren Buffett, who for some reason continue to work. But let's get into it. Moshiach, the end of times. Maybe before we start, let's talk about what even those terms mean, and then we'll get into whether we're going to be working forever.
Okay. So I'm glad this isn't an IRA or 401k because I would not be able to help you on that, but I can help you on the spirituality and the Jewish tradition aspects of money now, money as it was, and money as it will be, because that is spoken about quite a lot within the Jewish sources. So let's just start off by saying that the world we see now, this grind you're talking about, is not the way it always was, and it's not the way it's going to be. A change happened. There was a shift in world history which moved us from a world where things were more perfect and more natural and easier, and then something great happened. There was a catalytic change that happened in the world, and that's led us to where we are today. Let me explain what that was. So Adam and Eve were in the Garden of Eden, Adam and Chava, and we know that they were told not to eat from the forbidden fruit, and they sinned with eating. You should know that eating was always going to be a trouble and a challenge for people, making a living in order to eat, and the struggle of eating and maybe eating too much was always going to be a problem for humanity since that original sin, that original chet that happened in the Garden of Eden. After that happened, there was a radical change, say the rabbis, the Ramchal, Moshiach, a very famous Italian Kabbalist, speaks about it. And he says that things changed in such a degree that now work became very, very different. You see, beforehand, you wanted to work, you needed to do something before the sin, you got it done. It was as simple as maybe just plucking fruit off the trees, which is a metaphor for not too much effort. Once they sinned, they introduced two things. One, which is a verse from the Torah, which means through the sweat of your brow, you're going to have to work in order to survive in this world. And two, which we're also going to talk about today, and that is death. Death was not part of plan A. That was part of plan B. So those two big changes that we're going to speak about today actually all manifested from the sin in the Garden of Eden. However, we know that Moshiach is going to come, and then Olam Haba is going to follow after that. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later, and I have a lot to say about that, of course, because they all overlap.
Olam Haba means what?
Okay, so we'll mention it now then. We know that kingship is going to return to the Jewish people. The Jewish people are going to return to the land of Israel, and we're going to live in peace in the land of Israel. That is a precondition, that is a postulate, it's a given. Olam Haba is used, usually incorrectly, as a term to describe where our souls go to when we die, the world to come. Olam Haba, the world to come. But that's actually not what it means. Olam Haba is a period that's going to begin after the arrival of Moshiach. Different opinions when. Some say very soon after. Some say 1,000 years after. That we are going to have a resurrection of the dead, which we're going to talk about today. And that is going to lead to everlasting peace for the entire world.
So in both instances, that era of Moshiach and then the post-resurrection of the dead were all physical during that time, based on how you're describing it. Okay. Meaning the way you said people perceived, perhaps incorrectly, was a world of souls. Could it be that we never actually get to that next world and we continue in a form of physicality forever?
Okay, you're jumping ahead.
I jump all over the place.
Okay, so the short answer, I want to answer that now, but I want to double click on it a little bit later when we talk about resurrection of the dead. The short answer is, when Moshiach comes, the world carries on as it is right now, and there will be peace that's going to reign over the entire world, and everyone's going to know that God exists. That we've discussed already. Olam Haba is actually open for discussion. There's two opinions we're going to see. From the Kabbalists, you could really say, the Ramban, Nachmanides, and the non-Kabbalists, the rationalists, if you will, the Rambam. And some say that the connection of body and soul are going to be absolute physical as we know it in resurrection of the dead, that is, past people come to life. The Rambam, Maimonides, however, says no. Some people will be resurrected physically, and we'll see reasons for that a little bit later, but the physical body that we know it is not going to be existing in Olam Haba. So Olam Haba means the world to come that's going to take place in this world. That's the important difference we need to know.
So what happens to our daily lives after Moshiach comes?
Okay.
Am I still going to be driving at 8:15, sitting in traffic on the way to work?
Okay. So I'm going to start with a little bit of a disclaimer and a caveat to everything we've discussed today. It hasn't happened yet. And there are many statements from the prophets and the rabbis that need to be decoded. So what we're going to do today is decode some of these statements and try to figure out and see how it fits in. That's a very important thing we need to figure out. The prophet Isaiah tells us that when it comes to after the Messianic period, no eye has seen it. No one has been given access to that future world. It's a world that's impossible to describe, even in the prophets. The Messianic times, however, we do have a lot written about it. And we know that life, when Moshiach comes, is going to be a lot more peaceful, and the knowledge of God is going to spread throughout the entire world. Okay? What's important is that even within that world, there are two opinions, and you can take either of them. One is the world is going to carry on as is, and that's the opinion of the Rambam, based upon Shmuel and the Gemara. And that is that, there's going to be poor people, and people are going to have to go to work and make money. Olam holech minhago, the world's going to carry on as is. That's what the Rambam Maimonides says. And that means you're still going to get up in the morning, and it's still going to go to work, and there's still going to be poor people, and it's still going to have to give tzedakah, charity, to people that need it. That's going to continue even after Mashiach's arrival. What is going to change is that there's going to be peace in the land of Israel and the entire world eventually. It's a process. It's going to take time. It's hard to believe it now, but there is going to be peace that's going to reign throughout the entire world. And although the world's going to carry on as is right now, there's going to be a consciousness of the divine of God that's so clear, the desire to do wrong is going to almost disappear, And the desire to do good, do mitzvot, is going to become second nature to all of us. So that's the difference. The Kabbalists, however, disagree, and they see there's going to be a complete radical change, even in the Messianic era. And when it says that the wolf is going to lie down with the lamb, and, there's going to be a change in the nature of the world. And so maybe we won't be going to work. And if we look at the shift of people working now, pre-Messianic era, my opinion, we're very, very close to it. The signs are very, very clear that Moshiach is very, very close. The signs seem to show us that even now, work has changed. Right? We don't work like we did 50 years ago. People are working from home and they're hanging out, having more free time. I mean, what they're spending their free time on is another discussion. But people have changed. The world of work has really evolved to a point where we're seeing a lot more of a relaxed attitude, and there seems to be a lot more money that's available for people throughout the world. That is going to spread out.
Artificial intelligence.
100.
We didn't even know what that meant when we recorded our first podcast.
Yeah.
And now they say artificial intelligence will allow people to cut back on work drastically.
Not just AI, also digital currency. Let me share with you an amazing piece of Gemara, which fits in so much to your podcast and the amazing work you're doing. Check this out. The Gemara in Sanhedrin tells us that before Moshiach comes, we're going to see that the last pruta is an ancient coin that was very much, it's like a cent, right? Is going to have to be removed from the purse, right? Moshiach is not going to come until tichle pruta minakis. What does that mean? The last final coin is going to be removed from the purse. So one opinion is that people are going to be poor. Right before Moshiach comes, we're going to see the advent of extreme poverty throughout the entire world. Now, that's how I always learned that Gemara for a long, long time. However, I found another fascinating source that says, before Moshiach comes, it means that coins won't be needed anymore. Now, we didn't understand that because what are you talking about? We don't barter anymore. Everyone uses physical currency in order to transact transactions. So what is that talking about? So it could well be that this is actually a prediction of digital currency where physical notes and coins will not be needed, and people will be able to do all of their business dealings and all their money dealings without physical currency. And maybe this is the advent, well, I think it is, of crypto, right? And all these forms of digital currency that we've been seeing. There's another aspect of this I must mention to you because it's fascinating, and that is a proof that before Moshiach comes, we're going to see a glut of wealth in the world, which is, if you look at the Amidah, right, the Shemona Esrei, that is the 18 blessings that we say 3 times a day, every bracha comes in the exact specific place it needs to be. There is a concept in Judaism called samuch. When 2 things appear next to each other in the same verse or the same chapter, they're related. If you look at the Amidah, there seems to be this interesting connection between Birchat HaShanim, which is the blessing we make for financial success, and right afterwards, it changes the theme. It starts talking about Taka Shofar, that God should allow the shofar to announce the arrival of Mashiach. Why are these 2 blessings put next to each other? And the rabbis say that before Mashiach comes, we're going to see great wealth that's going to precede the arrival of Mashiach, and that wealth is going to make its way into Israel, specifically into Jerusalem. And that makes sense, because if Mashiach is a king, and his royal throne is going to be in Jerusalem, right? You can't just turn up and everyone's poor and there's no one there. You need the Jews to be there, and you need financial success to be there. So we're seeing that today in our day and age. We're seeing how Jerusalem is being built up, and that's what King David prophesies when he says, Bonei Yerushalayim, God is the builder of Jerusalem. The Jewish people are going to return. So financial wealth and success is going to exist among the Jewish people, and we're going to bring it to Israel, to Jerusalem specifically. And I don't think there's going to be physical currency. We're going to see this digital currency. And as you said, AI is going to come and help us to fulfill our mission on a much higher level once Mashiach comes.
As we move through 2024, many people are looking for and cashing in on tax deductions, which is why I've been telling you what more and more people are doing. They're putting money into a charitable entity without actually having to allocate the money to a specific cause right away. So how does it work? I'll tell you. It's called the Donors Fund. You create an account in under 60 seconds, and any money that's placed in the account is instantly eligible for an immediate tax deduction. You can then decide throughout 2024 and beyond where you'd like to allocate that money. It's absolutely free. No hidden charges, no funny business. If you love running around, pulling your hair out, trying to find your donation receipts across dozens of organizations, the Donors Fund is not for you. If you want everything streamlined in a single place, the Donors Fund is for you. All your donations, one button away. We're talking about a robust online platform, a super friendly mobile app. It features a bank-like system for your charitable giving. You can also invest the dollars to grow as you determine which charity to allocate the funds to. They offer checkbooks, debit cards, caring customer service, and more. So here's what to do. Visit thedonorsfund.org/koshermoney, links in the show notes, and create your account. Click around their website to learn more about it. The Donors Fund. Welcome to the future. And now back to this week's episode. Someone who's born now looks at Jerusalem, Israel overall, and sees a full-fledged country. I don't think people realize just what this country looked like 50 to 100 years ago, right?
Yeah.
The growth has been astronomical.
Exponential, absolutely. Incredible. I mean, my mother was born in Israel. She couldn't make her way into Jerusalem. It was dangerous.
Right.
Right. My mother told me actually that she remembers as a child, she lived in Tel Aviv. She was born in Tel Aviv. And they delivered a phone box. I don't know, most of your viewers may not know where that is, into a neighborhood. And all the community came out to look at this phone. No one could afford it. Everyone came to look at a phone box. That's the change we've seen. That is a small change compared to what's coming. You haven't even begun to see the beginning. Although we are seeing something, but it's going to be much, much greater. I want to add one more aspect, if that's okay. I know we're jumping around a lot, but we're going to tie it together. You know, Jacob, our forefather, was the one who had to leave Israel because his twin brother Esau, was chasing him in order to, kill him. So he had to leave. And he left with poverty, and it was very difficult. And he lived in Galot in exile by his uncle Lavan, his mother's brother, who abused him terribly. However, he became extremely financially successful. And then he got married, and he had kids, and he made a lot of money, and he returned with great wealth and success. And the rabbis give an expression to describe this. Mas avot simila banim. What happened to our forefathers is a sign for their descendants. We too left Israel. We were exiled, of course, 2,000 years ago with the destruction of the temple, right, in Jerusalem. And we had to leave. But we're going to return with great success, specifically financial success, in order to build up the land of Israel specifically. So we're already seeing that. And that's what you just pointed out, the land of Israel. Just, we can't believe. You see these photos of Tel Aviv, right? In the early 1900s, it's like a beach with 6 people and a hut. You're like, how did we get from that? Or Elat, just someone showed me yesterday.
Dirt roads and camels.
Yeah, and suddenly it's just this thriving nation. This is Messianic. This is all predicted by our prophets. And Jacob's return with great success to build the land of Israel, we're going to see here as well.
So many questions that we didn't pre-discuss are popping into my head. And one of them is, one of the biblical commandments is to build the holy temple, right? And I know you probably have it in here somewhere, so many questions. But when does that holy temple, right? We've discussed the Messianic-Era and Olam Haba. When does the building start, and why can't you and I, after this episode, roll up our sleeves and head to Jerusalem and start building?
My dear friend, if we went to Jerusalem right now and try to build the third and final temple on Temple Mount on Har HaBayit, we would start World War III, 4, and 5. Actually, World War III has begun, but we'll start World 4 and 5 at the same time. One of the jobs of Moshiach, says the Rambam, actually, it's not just one of the jobs, it's one of the proofs that he is Moshiach. Actually, it's one of the definitive proofs. The Rambam used the word vadai. Definitive proof that he is Moshiach is that he builds the third and final temple on Har HaBayit. Now, that's hard to imagine because that's a very, very contentious, probably the most contentious piece of land in the entire world. However, here's the good news, and we're seeing it. We were seeing it pre-October 7, 2023, and we're going to start to see it again now. You know, Yishmael, that is the ancestor of the Arab nations, the Muslims, I should say. It's not just the Arabs, because, the Iranians are part of this, and they're not Arabs. We see that Yishmael did teshuvah at the end of his life, okay? So we're going to see the descendants of Yishmael, the Arabs, the good of Abraham's children. Yishmael's a great man. Is going to Yishmael listen to our voice, and he's going to allow us to build the third and final temple. So it's not our job to do that. And it is forbidden to go up on Temple Mount because we don't have a red heifer. There are red heifers. That is a special red calf that allows us to purify ourselves to go back up. They do exist in the land of Israel, and I've seen them, and they're there, and they're ready to go. There is a farm of them. So everything is there. Everything is ready. Right? We're waiting for God, and God is waiting for us. Mm-hmm. And Moshiach is going to be the one who's going to initiate that rebuilding. It's his job. Anybody else tries it, they are going to fail.
Very interesting. So you mentioned the Yetzer Hara and the evil inclination being very small in this Messianic era, and this idea that there will be poor people. But I imagine this idea of charity will continue, but it will be a lot easier to give charity, and the poor people won't have it all that hard. When you talk about peace, do you mean peace of mind as well?
Okay, so there are two opinions on this, obviously.
Always. This is a Jewish conversation, right?
The Rambam says there are going to be poor people, and that's based on Shmuel and the Gemara, and there are going to be there, and we're going to want to give them, right? Now they have to struggle for it. It's going to take time for poverty to be removed. Just imagine one thing for a second. Imagine all the money that we have in the world today that is being spent on the military-industrial complex, all the war machines that are going on, and we took all that capital and we put it into solving poverty. Could we solve poverty? Is there enough money in the world right now? And the answer is absolutely. There has to be. If we all manage to collaborate in some way to figure out how to feed everyone in the world and give them the basic needs, shelter, water, food, and clothing, it could happen. It's going to happen. It takes time to get there. The Messianic period is not, I know as children we learn it's like a flash in the pan, and he comes, everything's great. That's not what it is a process. Now, we spoke moments before we started, and we brought up a very interesting question, which I want to mention, if that's okay with you. And that is, we know that one of the proofs that Moshiach isn't Moshiach is he's got to build a temple, but he's also got to bring the remaining Jews throughout the entire world to the land of Israel. Now, let's think about that for a second. Imagine every Jew, just look at America, were to leave right now. First of all, how do you facilitate that? That takes months. They pack up, sell their homes, and move. That's a big thing. But let's say that takes a number of months or years to do. Then they arrive in Israel. How long does it take a country the size of Israel to facilitate the acceptance of millions of Jewish people throughout the entire world? They've got to build houses, need infrastructure, right? They need food. It's going to be there, and it is there, but it takes time. It's going to take years for this process. It's a messianic process. It's not an overnight fix to all of our problems. So that's a big discussion. And just on the American side, it's just interesting to me as a thought equation. Imagine every single Jew were to leave America right now. What would happen to the American economy? And I'm saying they withdrew all their money. How would that look? It's just just thinking about it. Right? It turns your brain to guacamole, right? What exactly is the world going to be like if that were to happen? Assume maybe they could keep some money over here, and then take it over. What's the land of Israel going to look like? This is going to take time. It's a process, right? And Moshiach is there to help us transition from Olam Hazeh, this world, to the Messianic era, and that's a transition to take us into Olam Haba, which is going to be radically different.
Growing up, we're taught about an eagle and this idea that there will be a horn sound. But are you saying that from when the horn is blown or heard, that it's not necessarily a Harry Potter-like magical experience where we're physically on the back of an eagle? Maybe it's Eagle Airlines or something of that nature?
It's El Al Airlines.
You think so?
Yeah. I mean, right now, it's exclusively El Al Airlines. I actually got back from Israel a couple of weeks ago. They're the ones flying right now. There'll be other opportunities. These are metaphors. These are metaphors to describe the swift movement, right? Because they didn't have airplanes when the prophet spoke. Right. So they use metaphors to help us understand what the world's going to be like. And we're going to travel. And that process is going to take place. It's taking place now. It's going to take place a lot more rapidly, but it's going to take time in order to initiate. All these metaphors of the Lion and the Lamb means we'll be at peace with ourselves, with our communities. Shalom is going to reign throughout the entire world. And the financial world is going to change radically as well. We're going to go back to what things were like before the sin in Gan Eden, in the Garden of Eden. That's a key point over here. That means
With clothing, though, right?
With clothing.
Okay,
yes,
good.
I do hope so.
Yeah.
Although, after the resurrection of the dead, according to the Rambam, that won't be so physical. There'll be some people resurrected, but the world will continue as a spiritual state alone. The Ramban and Nachmanides said that we will have bodies at that point, and body and soul will reunite. That's the resurrection of the dead. However, the body is going to change in nature to a degree that we don't understand now. So I can't tell you what that means. That's what the Ramban says. And resurrection of the dead means a physical body and a physical soul, and it may take a natural process. Some genetic material is going to be introduced, and somehow we're going to be able to reanimate human life from the past. This is a given. It's really important. Everyone understands that if you don't accept this principle, whatever it means, and it can mean a lot of things, but at least as a principle, according to the Rambam, who he lists this as the 13th principle of his 13 principles of Ikri Emunah, of faith, you must believe this as a Jew. And he even sees a beautiful proof to this. This is a wild piece, if you're okay with that.
Go for it.
And that is, Moshe Rabbeinu, was told by God that you're going to get the land of Israel. Okay? He says that to him, although Moses did not enter into the land of Israel. And then he says, the land that I promised to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, I'm going to give lahem, to them. Now, that's a wrong word to use over there. You should say lachem, to you. God's talking to Moses about the Jewish people about to enter into the land of Israel. So the Talmud says, I'll tell you why the word lahem is used to them. Because they, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, are going to return to this world in physical form. And they're going to walk around this earth. How? I don't know. Some form of reanimation is going to occur, and we're going to see those people again. You know, just one quick side funny story. I had a student, a single guy who was in my class once, and said, "Wait, are you saying that all of our ancestors are going to come back?" And you have to say, yes, it's a principle of faith. You have to say that. He goes, "Does that mean Esther? Queen Esther's going to be walking around?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, can I marry Queen Esther when she comes?" I'm like, how about getting married in this world, in Olam Hazeh? We start figuring out your shidduchim in Olam Haba.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Try to get a perspective over here.
Right.
But he's right.
Achashverosh might have a thing or two to say about that.
He won't be there.
Oh, he won't be there?
No. I don't believe so.
So Tchias HaMesim is only for Jewish souls?
No. Tchias HaMesim applies to all Jewish people. Kol Yisrael yesh lem chelek la'olam haba. However, and this is pretty unanimous, non-Jewish righteous people who did good, just like Jewish people, will also be resurrected, and they will be able to enjoy Olam Haba. Evil people, of which Achashverosh I'm going to include into that list, if that's okay with you, will be punished at that time, and they may come back for a short period of time in order to realize what they did wrong with physical body and to receive punishment. There is going to be a day of reckoning for all the other nations.
Punishment and then the ability to repent, or?
No.
No.
Repentance is gone. Once Moshiach comes, the ability to repent, that window of opportunity closes from that point onwards. Whatever is. You have to get it right in this world now. And I'd get in there before the rush because Moshiach's very, very close. That's why we're seeing this Teshuvah movement, people coming back, you know, especially since October 7. We've seen a lot of people return to their faith and connect to their traditions. And it's a sad thing that led them to that, but it's a beautiful thing.
And for a non-Jew listening, you're referring to the 7 laws of Noah?
I am. And let's just list them out, because I know we have a lot of non-Jewish listeners.
Sure.
I have many as well, and they contact me. I'm going to run through them if that's okay with
Go
you.
for it.
There are 7 laws called the 7 laws of Noach. There are actually hundreds of thousands of people around the world who follow these 7 laws. I hear from many of them. And the 7 laws are, this is the way I remember it as a kid, Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Daled. Aleph is Ever Menachai. They cannot eat the limb of a live animal. Which includes drinking blood of an animal and also mistreating them. These are headlines as well as being specific laws. Bet is Birchat Hashem, blessing God's name. It's a euphemism. It means you can't curse God. You've got to believe in God. Gimel is Gezela. They cannot steal. Daled is Dinim, which means law cost. Every society, every nation has an obligation to set up fair and just legal systems. And they are judged all the time, especially Rosh Hashanah, because everyone in this world, Kol Boy Olam, everyone in the world is judged on Rosh Hashanah. So we know what we're judged on, right? Did we keep the 630 mitzvot? They're judged on those 7. And the final 3, which we call the cardinal sins, the Harog V'lo Yavor, a person should die rather than do, okay, are Avodah Zarah. They cannot worship idols, they cannot do murder, shvichut damim, and they cannot do forbidden sexual relationships. Those are the 7 laws of Noah. He's considered the archetypal non-Jew. He was a great man. He was a tzaddik in his day. And if they follow those laws, according to the Rambam, they need to follow those laws not by accident. They have to intentionally say, this is what God wants from me. But included is that is to pray to God. God doesn't see, I always say, we Jewish people don't have a monopoly on God. We have a monopoly on Torah and mitzvot, but not on God. Right? Everyone can access the one true God of Israel. And by the way, he also says that all religions from the entire world are going to disappear once Moshiach comes. And we're going to have a new universal religion, all worshiping the one same true God of Israel. That's coming too. And that's going to occur in the Messianic era.
Hey there, Kosher Money listeners. We'll be right back to the episode. But first, we've got something exciting just in time for the holiday season. Twillory is launching their biggest sale of the year with up to 50% off site-wide. Yes, you heard that right. Half off on the shirts, pants, and jackets that will keep you looking sharp, all while staying comfortable and warm. Twillory's lineup has you covered, whether you're upgrading your work wardrobe, looking for the perfect gift, or just treating yourself because you deserve it. I have to mention I'm loving their vest. I'm not wearing it right now, but I'm going to be cracking it out for the season. It's the perfect layer for staying stylish in cooler weather and seriously, seriously comfortable. Plus, their dress shirts and polos have become my go-to. They're so, so comfortable. And here's a little something, something for being a Kosher Money listener. Use code CHAI, C-H-A-I, at checkout for an additional $18 off your first order at twillory.com/koshermoney. Link is in the show notes. But hurry, this sale is for a limited time only. You can mix and match. Don't miss out on the best prices of the year. Head over to twillory.com/koshermoney and get that closet ready for the holidays. Enjoy. So what happens to global trade, the economy? I'm thinking about the Federal Reserve. You know, we're all going to have this clarity and understanding. So, you know, I'm not really, you know, if I'm working, maybe I'm working very lightly. It's, you know, I don't need to monitor foreign exchanges. I don't need to invest my 401k. What happens to all of that in this time?
Well, I don't understand them fully in this world. So for me to give an description of it is a little bit different. But I'm going to give you a very famous statement, probably the most famous statement on this topic. And it comes from a Talmudic sage called Rav. And he says in the Tractate of Berachot that this world, Olam Hazeh, is not like Olam Haba. Now, Olam Haba is the world to come. Some say he's referring to Moshiach comes, and some say he's referring to after the resurrection of the dead. But leaving that aside, this is his statement, and this is what he says, and I think it's going to somehow fit in a little bit to what you were saying. He says, in the future, there's not going to be any eating or drinking. There's not going to be any propagation, no physical, no business, no jealousy, no hatred, no competition. That's the future world. Rather, the righteous, the tzaddikim, are going to yoshvin, are going to sit down, v'atarateyen, their crowns are going to sit on their heads, brashayim, they're going to enjoy God's divine presence. So jealousy is gone, and competition is gone, and business is gone. All of that's going to go. What's left? People sitting down with crowns on their heads. Very cryptic statement. We have to decode that statement. And we're going to enjoy God's presence. Okay, so let's take that on a surface treatment. The Rambam says these are all metaphors. As the Rambam does, we've said that's his style. And he says that these are metaphors for people are no longer going to have to work hard. They're not going to have to be jealous, because jealous is the big motivator for a lot of people to make money. You know what I'm saying? And the idea of struggle between people and you're struggling more to get up is going to disappear. So what am I left with? Simple work in order to do what I need to do in order to survive, says the Rambam, Maimonides, after Moshiach comes. And my life will be much, much easier. And the foreign exchange may exist. And 401ks may be able to be cashed out. And all of these things may be able to occur. However, all of that comes for one purpose. I can sit. Sit is a metaphor for being relaxed. I'm calm. That's why it's called yeshiva. Why it's called yeshiva? Because I'm not literally sitting, but I'm calm because I'm learning Torah, right? I'm doing what I need to do. I'm going to sit and I'm going to do what I need to do in order to survive. And the rest of my time will be there to enjoy God's presence in this world. Something which we don't have. We can't even fathom it. But that was the world before Adam and Eve came. They had that. They had that ability. We're going to recapture the world, the garden, the entire world, as it were, is going to become one big Garden of Eden.
What are the emotions people have when you give speeches? Are they overwhelmed? Are they scared? Because I would imagine some people listening hear this and it's a lot to take in. We're taught about Moshiach very, very little. We know it's something we want. There are songs about it. It's coming. We want it now. But when you break it down like this, I can imagine some people walk out of your speeches with a panic attack.
I've never had panic attacks per se. However, there has been a shift. And it's not just among the Jewish people. A lot of non-Jewish people too contact me. I probably have more non-Jewish viewers than Jewish viewers, I should say. Well, there's a lot more of them as well, so it makes sense. But it used to be like, this is so strange. And yet, over the past 10 years, and definitely the past 5 years, and most definitely the past year, somebody was saying, yeah, there's a feeling in the world that the world is not right. There's a need for change. We want to see the end of war. You know, it's not accepted as it was. Even since the Second World War to where we are right now, there's this movement towards, I'm not getting it. There's got to be a better ending. It's like I'm reading a novel or watching a movie and I'm halfway through and I don't like it. It doesn't make sense. Why are the bad people, right, profiting so well and all the good people are suffering? It's like, I need to get to the final page. There's this desire. As I mentioned before, the entire war that's happening in the Middle East right now is based upon Moshiach. Persia, who I believe to be Gog, because it is mentioned, right? The prophet Ezekiel does say that Paras is Gog, right? We mentioned that already, is a Messianic jihadi death cult. You cannot understand what they're doing and why they're doing it without understanding this topic of Mashiach and Olam Haba, because that is the leaders, not everyone inside the nation, but the leaders' motivation to push the envelope when it comes to Israel and the Middle East. It's so important to know that, my dear friend. Nobody's going to understand what's happening in the world unless you put in the Mashiach factor, because it's influencing so many people. And those nations that are not part of that, right, the Russians, they don't really care. You know what I'm saying? They're atheists probably. However, even they are motivated to make a change, to make their names great in this world. We're seeing it to this very day. So most people, just to answer your question, used to be like, all right, whatever, and just weren't so interested. It was like a sideline topic, right? Mashiach. Now they're like, we need to know this. We want to understand. What does Jewish tradition, what does our Masorah, our tradition, have to say about these ideas? Right? What is this Mashiach? Is there an end? Is there a final page to this novel? Is there a final scene to this movie? Are things going to work out well? Because I need to know that right now. I'm not satisfied to go through my grind and to accept the fact that we still have hostages in Israel and there are wars that are being fought against us and the entire world is becoming anti-Semitic at the same time, which makes no sense. I want to know the end. And so the desire of the past year, I have noticed, this is anecdotal, has become extreme in terms of understanding Mashiach, understanding what the world's going to be like, what Israel has in its future, which is good. They're all good. And resurrection of the dead.
So we're going to get into the resurrection of the dead. One thought that came to mind because you compared Persia, Iran to Gog. What is Magog? Is that the Germans in World War II? Are those the Romans? Who are they?
I've got so much to say on this. I had to do a deep dive into this over the past year. Once again, different opinions. Gog is the nation, Magog is the leader. Some say it's not the literal names of these individuals. What it is a general generic term. Rashi does say, actually, Gog is the nation of Magog. However, most people say it refers to the other nations, the 70 nations. There are 70 core nations that exist in this world who are going to come united nations, to attack us and hurt us and support those people who are physically attacking us at the end of days. The Abarbanel, however, says differently. He says that, and I took a deep dive into his book, actually, his commentary on this, on the book of Daniel. He says that actually the Jewish people are going to be sidelined a little bit, and this is actually going to be a war between the Islamic world and the Western Christian world of Rome, that's represented by Rome, because that's the center of, Christendom, to this very, very day. So we're going to see that battle happening. It's going to take place in the land of Israel and around Jerusalem. There is a tradition, which I must mention, that this war of Gog and Magog won't be as bad as you think it is, because, and the Stipler did mention this, one of the great rabbis in the last generation, because World War II was so bad that maybe we're able to avert this terrible decree of Gog and Magog. Okay, having said that, it's happening now, right? We're seeing this is one of the worst attacks October 7th against the Jewish people since the Holocaust. It's a continuation of it. It's just got the Moshiach aspect component added in, and it's happening in the land of Israel. And all the prophets do refer to Gog and Magog happening in the land of Israel, specifically around the city of Jerusalem. And there's going to be a lot of people who are hurt during that time, which we saw. But it's going to end up with Moshiach fighting them off, defeating Gog and his nation, Magog, in order to celebrate and to build the third and final temple. I will mention one last piece, if I may. Rabbi Samson Raphael Hirsch was a great rabbi who lived in Germany. He wrote that Gog, which is the nation, which, by the way, as I said, the prophet does say is Paras Persia. He lists a number of nations. The only one we're sure of is Paras Persia. And since October 7th, it's been very, very clear. He says the word Gog is the word Gag, roof. And Magog are those against the roof. What's that? What's he talking about? So we are the non-roof people, the Jewish people. And the other nations are the Gag people, the roof people. They put their faith in the safety of their own roofs. They don't ascribe any higher power. We, the Jewish people, we are against that. We put our faith in God. He's our roof, as it were. And this is all represented by the sukkah. See, the schach is our Gag. That's the real us. We lived in the desert, we left Egypt, and we lived in Sukkot. We put our faith in God during this 40 years. So too the sukkah we sit in on Sukkot. Okay? By the way, that whole discussion of Gog and Magog is actually read on Sukkot. And some say the Moshiach will come, or the final battle will begin on Sukkot, which it did. So he says the real difference is we need to put our faith in Hashem, and that is the mitzvah for us right now. In our generation, there's a lot of things we can do and not do, and chesed is good, and Shabbat is really important. Emunah, faith in God, is going to help us get through this period. That's why we've seen so many people since October 7th accept God, right? Coming out of the woodwork. Like random people. I've seen atheists be like, okay, there's a God, right? They literally come forward. So that's the people who put their faith not in the Gog, right, the Gog people, but they put their faith in the Schach, meaning that's our way of describing put our faith and emunah into God himself.
3 times a day we say in our prayers, blessed are you, God, the resurrector of the dead. So before we can resurrect the dead, many millions of people have died. So the natural question, which I have, and it's in your book, and it's a fantastic book. You can pick it up, The Future. It's on Amazon, Jewish bookstores. It's sold out a few times, but highly recommend it. The natural next question is, what happens when you die? Where do you go? Okay.
So we're going to follow the direction of the Ramban Nachmanides, who's actually a great Kabbalist. And I'll tell you something very reassuring many people have told me. And that is based upon verses in the Torah to describe what happens to a person when they die. And we know that Abraham died, he was gathered to his people, and then he was buried. And Yitzchak too, and Yaakov too, and Ishmael too. What is this idea of dying, being gathered to your people, and then being buried? So it says like this. The commentators say that when a person dies, they go to Gan Eden, not the physical Gan Eden in this world, which may or may not be a physical location, but they go to a spiritual place called the Olam HaNeshamot, the world of souls. And you are connected and you see your previous family members. So when a person dies, they die, and before they're buried, the majority of their soul, because the soul can be in 2 places at the same time, some of it stays with the body in the grave. That's why a tombstone in Hebrew is called a nefesh, a soul. A little bit of soul remains there, but the rest goes up to Shemaim. And one of the first people you see are family members, which for some people is great news, and other people may not be such great news, but that's pretty much what happens when a person dies. And that's called Gan Eden or Olam HaNeshamot. They call that Olam Haba, but it's not Olam Haba. Olam Haba is the regathering of all those souls that are going to be combined back with their bodies at the end of days during the Messianic era. After, really, to be fair, some during, most likely, and some after the Messianic era, after a resurrection of the dead.
So you mentioned Queen Esther, Abraham. All these people are coming back. People listening, their bubbies, their Zaydis, aunts, uncles, people from the Holocaust. What body is coming back? Meaning, if someone died at the ripe old age of 99, are they coming back as a 99-year-old with a bad hip and, arthritis? Or are they coming back as their strong 30-year-old self?
Thank you so much for asking that very important question. I get asked that a lot. So there's two parts to that question. The first part is, which body comes back? Now, you're assuming there's something called reincarnation, right? Which means that one soul has transmigrated a number of times into different bodies during history. If you believe in, which you do not need to believe in, reincarnation and resurrection of the dead are two separate topics. Mm-hmm. The Kabbalists and most rabbis do talk about, the Rambam does not. They say that yes, there will be one body that comes back, and that is the one that achieved its greatest perfection. Some say that it's actually been a collection of those bodies and all will be recognizable during Tchiat HaMeitim. You'll see in that one person you're looking at, and you have to define what looking at means, because according to the Rambam, it's not a physical looking, okay? Whatever you're looking at, you'll be able to see various people that they were in previous lives. That's if we go with the reincarnation thing. So you can take that part or leave it, okay? But most likely it's the one body that achieved its greatest perfection in this world. Having said that, how about defects? So there's two opinions on that as well. One opinion is they're going to come back without defects, okay? They're going to come back perfectly. The other is, which is more likely and mentioned by more sources, that people who had defects are going to come back with those defects, and then through the process of resurrection and the established science, I guess they didn't use that word, but knowledge of that day, are going to get rid of it. For example, I just read this week, actually, that now they're giving blind people sight, right? Deaf people are going to hear. That's happening through natural scientific means. That's going to become very, very widespread, right? Through AI. They actually used AI on an eye surgery recently to give a woman who was pretty much completely blind sight. It's unbelievable, right? It's biblical. Actually, it's Messianic. So we're going to see a lot more of that, okay? And we're going to see that transition. So that the latter opinion is most likely the true one, because I've seen more sources describe it. They'll come back with the defects, but then we'll be able to fix them once they are here.
Wow. And their memories, what happens there, right? Because you're meeting a spouse, you know, if you're believing in reincarnation, there might be multiple spouses and kids from different eras. I've heard that some people say no soul alive today is a new soul. Everyone is a form of some reincarnation. Walk us through that.
So the current Kabbalists do say that the nation we're seeing today have been here hundreds of times. Actually, there is a tradition that the Jewish people before Moshiach comes, which we are right now, are direct reincarnations of the people in the time of Noah, of the Mabul. They actually got to Har Sinai and got here as well. So a lot of the problems they had in the days of Noah, which involved stealing and sexual immorality, are going to be challenges we're going to see before Moshiach comes. So we are going to see that. Again, the prophet says we don't know, and says the eye haven't seen it. The eye has not seen it, and it's very difficult to know for sure. However, all those previous souls, missions that were done, if you believe in reincarnation, are going to be able to combine, and you're going to see the cumulative effect of all those previous souls in this one person. That's hard for us now because we're limited by one person and their one mission and their achievements in this world. At that point, it's going to be easier, for sure. You have to say this, otherwise the whole thing makes no sense. To see all those achievements downloaded into one person and how they managed to do it. Just maybe like different phases of a person's life, right? You have their achievements as a child, just small, then as a teenager, there's an older person, and all of that can be contained within one soul and one person. You're just going to see that over multiple lives over time. You're going to have to say that.
And that person who is resurrected, are they looking to achieve more personal growth, or are they coming back in a very complete, perfect state?
Great. So the Rambam says that they come back in a complete, actually the Ramban says too. So why are they coming back at all? According to him and others, it could be because they missed out. They went through so much suffering over the various times they were here before, or the one time they were here before, if you go with the Rambam. They want to enjoy this world. They want to see Moshiach, right? They want to enjoy and enjoy God's presence in this world, body and soul. So he actually goes with that opinion, that actually the whole thing is so that we'll be able to enjoy this world. They will be able to enjoy this world, which maybe they didn't get because they died young or through tragic difficulty, and they couldn't enjoy God's presence, body and soul connected together. So that's the opinion of those. So at that point of Tchiat HaMeitim, whether you go with the Rambam or Ramban, that it's literally body and soul, or it's a complete spiritual experience, and even only some people will come back, according to the Rambam. They are here to enjoy this world, which they probably didn't enjoy the first time around.
And we all live forever?
Good question. Matter of dispute. The Rambam says, even the Rambam says in the Messianic era, lifespans are going to increase greatly. That's what he's saying. When someone says, Ad Me'ah V'Esrem, you should live to 120, I'm like, that's a curse, right? We have the technology for people being born now for sure to live 150, 160, 180, right? So he says lifespan is going to increase greatly. That's in the Messianic era. That information, that knowledge is going to be so apparent that that's going to happen. After Tchiat HaMetim, yes, we're going to live forever because we're spiritual beings. We're spiritual beings. And the spirit, the soul, never dies. It comes from God.
I want to paint a scenario for you. Imagine waking up each day unsure if you can provide food for your family. Well, in Israel, many of the poorest families face this harsh reality day in and day out. They find themselves in the heartbreaking position of begging their relatives, friends, and community for help just to secure the next meal. This constant struggle not only affects their physical well-being, but drastically hurts their dignity and self-respect, as you can imagine. But together, we can make a difference. We really can. There's a food program in Israel that's stepping in to help these families. They provide nourishment, restore a sense of dignity. This program from Kol Chabad relies on the generosity of people like you. They cannot do this vital work without you. And they see these cases up close and personal, and they say it breaks their hearts. These are real people that are asking friends in a WhatsApp message. They're calling an uncle. They're literally going door to door. And without Kol Chabad, that would never stop. So Kol Chabad needs our help to do this great work. If you want to lend a hand, check out kolchabad.org/kosher-money. The link is in the show notes. Whatever you can give, let's pull together and support our family and friends in Israel. This war has taken a great toll on them, and Kol Chabad needs our help. So every donation, no matter the size, no matter the currency, makes a real impact. Again, the link is in the show notes. Thank you for your support. Thank you on behalf of everyone in Israel who may or may not speak the language that you speak, but they know and feel your support. And Kol Chabad is our partner in all of this. So reach into your pockets, pull out your credit cards, make a donation, whatever you can. Literally $5 goes a really long way, and we cannot thank you enough. Now back to this week's episode. Yeah, there's clearly a part here where it's not just unexplainable, it's unthinkable, right? We can't think. Someone who says, hey, I'm going to give you something good and you're going to have it forever. Someone says, hey, I might get bored of that. Or, you know, what's going to keep me ticking each day in year 2700 of my life, right? It's hard to grasp that.
We have to go back to the Garden of Eden. Once they sinned in the Garden of Eden, we can't even fathom what it was like beforehand. It was such a radical change. And that's the words used by the Ramchal, Ramosh Chaim Latzato. Such a radical, we can't even, it's like, I tell my students, can you think of a new color? Right? It's just, I can't. Talk to a fetus, Tell a fetus, there's a whole world out there. I know you're comfortable over here and you're getting food being piped in, right? Via the umbilical. And, but there's a whole world out there. I'm like, come on, ridiculous. Everything I need is here. I'm warm, I'm regulated, I got my food on tap. Why would I want to go to another world? That transition, which would be impossible for a fetus to understand. We are the fetus, right? There's a whole world of goodness that is waiting for us that the prophets talk about, and the Rambam, the Rishonim, the Achronim, all Jewish sages spoke and said, there's a much better world. We're just stuck in prison. We can't even fathom it, but it's there and it's waiting for us. And God created the world with it there. It's not an afterthought. God created the world. The first letter of the Torah is a bet, which is number 2. And the rabbis tell us because God created this world and the next world. So this world was always meant to be a temporary reality until we get to Olam Haba, Moshiach, and Tchiat HaMetim.
So having to live on Mars is not necessarily needed. We should tell Elon Musk to sunset that project?
No. According to Rabbi Ari Kaplan, we're going to have interstellar travel when Moshiach comes, and Tzaddikim will be able to inherit other planets. And that was always like a theoretical, like a metaphor. But that could well be, and most likely is true. We're going to be able to settle. Why would we want to do that? It's a different question. But there will be incredible interstellar travel that's going to occur for the world when Moshiach comes.
So someone who was...
That's Ari Kaplan, just so you know. If you want to know the source of that.
Not Rabbi Lawrence. He's not... So someone who lived in the 1500s and then comes to a world that has technology, do they have to bridge the gap, or miraculously they'll know? Because if not, I can see a lot of grandkids teaching their grandparents how to use computers. And
it's like now, I take the plug in, plug out. Right? So how do you fix my computer? I don't know, but information, when Moshiach comes, and during the Messianic period, which once again is a process, and technology, and after resurrection of the dead, it's not like it is now. Now it takes you a long time to get through a book, right? Listen to a WhatsApp message, unless you put it on, double speed. I'm hoping for triple speed and the length of messages I get. But information is going to be able to be downloaded into a person at a much higher rate. But again, you're thinking it's a small change. Not only humans are going to change, the entire world, said the rabbi, is going to change. The nature of the entire universe is going to change with Moshiach completing with the resurrection of the dead. It's not the same world. Just that you can download, even that word, right? If I said, I'm going to download information, it's going to happen in moments. That's going to happen not just to your phone and your computer, it's going to happen to you. You are going to have this information downloaded into you. So you can turn around like, well, 1500s, he's riding a horse and buggy and now he's going to get into a Tesla. It's okay.
Right.
It's going to be downloaded and then information is going to become very clear and fast right into a person. I would not be concerned with that whatsoever. What I would, and I don't want to leave this like in some theoretical formula, fascinating discussion, I want to point out that to get to that place, to that enjoyment, to that better world that we're hoping for, the Olam Haba, does take work in Olam Hazeh. And we've been working at it. And it's a challenge and it's tough. I know. Work, war, poverty, all the challenges we've seen throughout the world, at least over this past year at least, has been devastating. Hold on. There is a final page to the novel. There's a last scene of the movie. It's going to be good. But what we need to do now is build our emunah, learn Jewish tradition, and connect to Torah mitzvot. Learning Torah is the best access point into Olam Haba.
This idea that when a baby is in his or her mother's stomach, they know the entire Torah, right? How is that possible? There's this idea that someone can know everything instantly or over time or whatever. I can understand that I don't understand using that idea.
It's a great metaphor. And it's a continuation of what we said. The Gemara Nida talks about it and says that actually an angel comes and shines a light above the head of the fetus and shows them from one end of the world to the other end of the world. That's not the confusing part. Okay, that's great. I'm a spiritual being. The confusing part is that that's lost. When the child is born, it sits on the lip. Everyone learns this. No one knows why. Yeah. And they forget everything. The lip is going to represent the idea that it's put inside them, into their mouth. And every time they speak out Torah, that information that was downloaded into the fetus is going to come out again and again. Their own chelek shebetorah, their piece of Torah. Doesn't just mean their piece of Torah, their Torah portion. It means their understanding and their mission in this world. So that's lost at birth, right? That's lost at birth and has to be recaptured. When Moshiach comes and after the resurrection of the dead, it's going to be easily accessible. There is no loss. It's all going to be there and there's going to be no memory problems. Right now we have dementia and Alzheimer's, right? That's gone. Again, it's another thing we don't even think about. No blind, no deaf people, no sickness. We'll all be able to just become experts in everything. And if lifespans will be much, much longer, which they will be, right? I've heard great rabbis say that we can all become doctors. Right now, getting through medical is expensive and difficult, right? We'll become, technicians and such. So this abundance of knowledge is going to be universal and increase the world's capacity for greatness.
Wow. So the rabbi's big on Bitcoin.
I wasn't. I am now.
I mean, ever since President Trump won the second time, Bitcoin's only growing.
It's definitely the future of currency. Again, this is the Kosher Money podcast, right? So I will say to you, the word for money, there's many different words. One is kesef, which is actually silver, but it's a general term for kesef comes from the word nichsof, nichsafti. We say in our prayers on Friday night, means that there's a great desire for it. That's in Olam Hazeh, but not in Olam Haba. The great desire will be for godliness. So kesef is a short-term reality of, I have a desire for it. We desire money. Also the word zuzim. Zuzim, which is also one of the biblical words and ancient words for money, comes from the word zaz. It moves around. Moves around to what? From person to person. Moshiach comes, that's done. There's no moving around. It's going to be able to stay in one place and be enjoyed by a person for them to reach a higher form of. And the word for a coin is a matbeya. You may have heard this, like an ancient word. And that has inside of the word teva, which is nature. Why the word nature and coin? Because the nature of the world is going to change. That you can see, like a coin has the imprint of the person that gives it value. So too, the entire nature of the world is going to change. And we're going to see God embossed on this world as well through money. So the desire for money is going to change. Where it goes to is going to change. Because right now, you know, you're like, how did that person make all that money? Why does God? Because God decides who gets what, where and when. That's going to change. It's going to become a lot more apparent, and it's going to become a lot more universal.
So if someone's listening now and they have 142 follow-up questions, how can they reach the rabbi?
I don't want 145 follow-up. Okay, they can definitely, I appreciate it. They can follow me on my Instagram, at Rabbi Lawrence. I appreciate that. I put my classes on there and clips on there too. My YouTube channel is the best place where I download all my lengthy classes. I have many on Moshiach. And just look up, I'm the only Rabbi Lawrence Hajioff in the world, fortunately. So you can look me up on YouTube at Rabbi Lawrence Hajioff, should come up, and they can contact me via social media. I'm happy to hear from anyone about their questions. I've quoted a lot of different sources. I couldn't give the sources now. If people want, I'll be happy to publicize the hundreds of sources that we had to kind of crunch into this discussion today.
What's your Hebrew name, by the way?
Why do you ask me that?
Because I would imagine we could probably do 60 minutes on the idea of somebody's name and what it symbolizes into their power and their identity. So when I thought of that, I said, curious what his Hebrew name is.
So you're absolutely right. The Hebrew word for a soul is a neshama. The middle letters are shem. So your soul and your name reflect on each other. That's why the Arizal says when a person is born.
See, I told you 60 minutes.
God gets a person is given by God prophetic ability to name them. My Hebrew name is Moshiach.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
My mother had high hopes for me.
So, okay, there you go. Now I know why you wrote a book called The Future, A Guide to the Jewish Messiah, Israel, and the End of Days.
Yeah. It was actually my grandfather's name. It wasn't my mother having high hopes for me. It's a tradition in my family. The name gets passed around, and it was his grandfather. So my Hebrew name is Moshiach.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm not too public about it.
Yeah, okay.
Because it freaks people out.
Do you want us to remove this part of the conversation?
You can leave it in there. Enough people know at this point.
Yeah, oh, wow.
But I have to marry off the rest of my kids, so I don't want to.
Well, that's why the book, you didn't want to write Rabbi Moshiach.
Yeah, I didn't do that. I went my English name, Rabbi Lawrence.
Was your grandfather alive when you were born?
Yes, he was. He died soon after. The Sephardic tradition is that we name after the living, and the Ashkenazim named after the deceased. He was alive, and he died soon after I was born, so I never got to meet him, actually.
I read your book before I even met you or knew who you were.
Yeah.
It's called The Future. Where can people purchase this? It makes for a great gift, by the way.
So thank you so much. I appreciate it. We're in reprint right now. Since the last podcast and since October 7th, we sold thousands of copies. We're completely sold out. So we're reprinting right now, and it's going to be, it's Feldheim is publishing it again. And we're reprinting thousands of copies, and they'll be available. They'll be here actually landed in about a week or two. Actually, once this podcast comes out, soon after that.
Okay.
And available on Amazon.com and all good Jewish bookstores.
Love it.
Thank you. So I appreciate whoever wants to buy it.
Thank you so much. This is really phenomenal. I've watched your videos on YouTube. This is just a taste. We try to really cram in as much as we can. Literally can do this once a week. Maybe we should. Cannot thank you enough.
Thank you, Eli. Thanks for having me. I appreciate you and the amazing work you're doing.
I'll see you in Eretz Yisrael.
I'll be there.
Thank you for listening to our latest episode of Kosher Money. Rabbi Lawrence was phenomenal. I just want to say, I literally did not know his Hebrew name, okay? It might have looked scripted, but it was not. And had I known, I probably wouldn't have asked him because he's legit and I didn't want people to get weird vibes. But thank you, Rabbi Lawrence, Rabbi Moshiach, for coming on and discussing Moshiach. Here are a few tips you may want to jot down. Is your passport expiring? Do you even know when it expires? Do you have kids? What about their passports? It's always a good idea to have a passport that's current. So if you ever do need to travel, it's at the ready. Set a reminder on your calendar when to have them updated and you're good to go, literally. Another tip, no problem. Have you been to a doctor for a physical in the last year? Many times when people become adults, they no longer have a primary care physician. after their pediatrician will stop seeing them. Hello, you're 22 years old. Go to a non-pediatrician. It's so important to get blood work and a full physical every year so you can catch anything early. If you need a doctor, ask some friends who they use. You owe it to yourself and your family. Another tip? No problem. If you live in the US, you may be owed money that is rightfully yours that you have not claimed. From forgotten bank accounts, uncashed checks, security deposits, the list goes on. Check out missingmoney.com, which is a legitimate resource. It has a box for a social security number, but you don't need to enter that. Check your name, your family members' names, your friend names. Claim money that is legitimately yours. To be entered for the chance to win a free book from Rabbi Lawrence, comment on this YouTube video. Which quote of Rabbi Lawrence's was your favorite? So, did the rabbi say something that really resonated with you? Jot it down in the comment section, and you may be the winner. We're going to give away 2 of his books, and you may be the winner, which we'll announce in the next episode. Congratulations to Yoni Schick 869 and Linda Babaji 5473. You each just won a Dave Ramsey book because you commented on our last episode. So if you just won, reach out to us at livinglechaim.com and we'll ship the book out to you. Thank you to the sponsors of this week's episode, Twillory, Kol Chabad, and the Donors Fund. They are awesome. They support us. Support them. Check them all out by clicking on, yes, you guessed it, the links in the show notes. If you would benefit from a financial advisor or speak to somebody for free to help you budget, get out of debt, or anything else finance related, like set up a 401k, IRA, blah, 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 visit the OU's livingsmarterjewish.org. They've literally helped thousands of people just like you. Guys, it's free. Come on. livingsmarterjewish.org. Thank you to my brother Yaakov, Jody, and the entire team, Yoni, Yechiel, everyone, for making, Yehudis too, that's a good call, for making this episode possible. Sarah, yes, Sarah, and Michal, Daisy, yeah, oh my goodness, wow. Rodrigo is not real. I mean, he might be real, but that's not somebody on the team yet. So if your name is Rodrigo, you can apply to be on our team, and you may be just fast-tracked. Okay, that's not real. Okay, until next time, keep your money kosher. Bye-bye.
Living L'chaim.